a picture.
My name is Bob Geary. I'm the president of the Law Alumni Association. I'm a graduate of the class of 1991, and I'm a partner at the law firm of Barclay Damon here in Buffalo. I want to welcome all of our guests who are here this evening. Thank you for your attendance. And I want to now introduce the folks that we have up here at the head table. I'm going to start on my far left. I have Marilyn Teber-Shaw, class of 79. Ms. Shaw is the recipient of the Community Service Award and Associate Judicial Administrator of the Office of the President at Cornell University. Next to Marilyn Teber-Shaw, we have Mason Ash. Mason P. Ash, class of 89, is the recipient of the Business Award and the founder and CEO of Ash Sports and Entertainment Consulting in Washington, D.C. Mason is also a member of the Dean's Advisory Council. Next we have Interim Dean Jim Gardner. I'll have a little more robust introduction of Jim in a few minutes. Next to Jim is Charles Zakowski, University of Buffalo's Provost and Executive Vice President for Academic Affairs. Next we have the Honorable Kathy Hochul. She is the recipient of the Non-Alumna Award, and she is the Lieutenant Governor of the state of New York. Next to Lieutenant Governor Hochul, we have the Honorable Ralph Bonello, class of 1969. Judge Bonello is the recipient of the Judiciary Award and a New York State Supreme Court Justice for the 8th Judicial District in Niagara Falls. This evening we had to go to the bullpen for the right-hander or the left-hander?
What's that?
Right hand?
Both.
Both. Scott Becker, class of 1993, is a partner at Kavanaugh & Cook. He's vice president of the Law Alumni Association, and Scott is kindly filling in for Patty Lettieri, who was unable to join us this evening because of something that came up today. So Scott is pinch pitching, I guess. On my right, I have Ann Joint, class of 2005. She's a member of the Law Alumni Association Board of Directors. She's co-chair of our annual dinner committee. She is a partner at Lipsitz Ontario LLC, and she will co-present tonight's awards along with Scott. Trini Ross, class of 1992, is the recipient of the Public Service Award and Senior Litigation Counsel in the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Western District of New York. She is an emeritus member of the Dean's Advisory Council. Neil Goldberg, class of 1973, is a co-recipient of the Private Practice Award and a founding partner of Goldberg Segala LLP. Neil also serves on the National Advisory Board for the Law School's Advocacy Institute. Next to Mr. Goldberg is Brian Gwick, class of 1998. Brian is a partner at Woods Oviatt Gilman here in Buffalo, and he is the Law Alumni Association president-elect. Brian will assume the role of president effective June 1. Next to Brian, we have Tom Segala, class of 1972. Tom is a co-recipient of the Private Practice Award. He is also a founding partner of Goldberg Segala. And on the end, we have Dean Eileen Fleischman, Vice Dean of the Law School and Executive Director of our Law Alumni Association. I really just want to say a few words of thanks for all of those who have joined the Law Alumni Association and have a flashy star here tonight. I brought my check. For those of you who don't have a flashy star, make sure to get your dues payments in. I want to thank all of our alumni who support this organization, but who also support the law school. With your support, we are able to provide tuition scholarships to students out at the law school. We're able to provide stipends to students who are interested in public interest law through the Buffalo Public Interest Law Program. We have very active chapters throughout the country who are doing wonderful things in terms of helping our law students find jobs, helping them network, getting them career advice, and it's because of the work that all the people in this room do that our law school is so successful, and I want to thank all of you very much. I also want to thank the Gold Group in particular. This year we've had a very, very active year, 7 CLEs that were put on by our Gold Group. Very, very well-attended socials in the fall and the spring to provide networking opportunities for our law students and for our recent grads. And just most recently, the Gold Group did a spring food drive at some of the firms in downtown, and they were able to collect enough in donations. The Food Bank estimates that more than 1,000 meals will be able to be provided to people here in Western New York as a result of the efforts by the people in the Gold Group. At this time, I'd like to introduce Interim Dean Jim Gardner. On December 20th, 2014, SUNY Distinguished Professor James A. Gardner was named Interim Dean by Provost Charles F. Zukowski. Dean Gardner is the Bridget and Thomas Black Professor in the Law School, a designation he retains while serving as Interim Dean. A member of the law faculty since 2001, Dean Gardner is a highly regarded expert in constitutional and election law. He is a prolific scholar who has published 6 books, as well as numerous book chapters, articles, and review essays. He has been recognized as one of the 10 most frequently cited scholars in the field of election law by the Election Law blog. Dean Gardner has served as the director of the law school's Jekyll Center for Law, Democracy, and Governments, and formerly served as the school's vice dean for academic affairs from 2007 to 2012. It's my pleasure to call Dean Gardner to the podium and offer a few words.
Thanks very much, and welcome. As always, I'm very pleased to be here to greet old friends, and particularly to see former students. I take great pleasure and derive considerable sense of pride in seeing how all of you have thrived and prospered in your careers. When you work in a law school, you think a lot about teaching. I probably think about teaching more than most people. I grew up in a family of teachers. Both my parents taught in public schools in New York City. And in that house, I have to tell you, every day brought a lesson, whether I wanted it or not. No question in that house ever got a straight answer. My mother, who taught 7th and 8th grade English, was a phenomenal Socratic interrogator. Ask her a question, and her immediate response was a question of her own. Mom, why does that happen? Why do you think that happens? Mom, how does this work? How do you think it works? Inevitably followed up with several rounds of additional questioning until she was satisfied I was thinking things through for myself. My father, a music teacher, had a real genius for diagnosing obstructions to understanding and then attacking them quite directly. He was a brilliant creator of custom teaching aids. Ask a question and he would often pull out a sheet of paper to draw a picture or perform some kind of physical demonstration. Without knowing it at the time, my brother and I were enrolled in a course that ran every day from dawn to dusk. I mention this because it's quite clear to me that our students and our young graduates, whether they know it or not, also are immersed in a similarly never-ending course of instruction. The most obvious and visible source of this instruction is provided in the law school by its faculty in rooms that are recognizably classrooms. But an equally important source of instruction is provided in a huge variety of venues by the people sitting in this room, the senior lawyers, mentors, and experienced professionals who help our students and graduates learn the norms of the profession and how to translate what is in reality the largely preparatory education provided into the classroom into an actual career. We must always remember that the education of a complete professional requires an ongoing partnership comprising the entire community, and that teaching is delivered not only by those whose job title happens to recognize them as teachers, and not only by those who self-consciously engage in the act of teaching or training, but also by those who quite unself-consciously teach through example, through their behavior, through their adherence day in and day out to the highest standards of ethics and professionalism. This event always reminds me vividly and pleasurably of our connectedness in the enterprise of professional education, and I look forward to continuing to work with you collaboratively in partnership for the collective benefit of our community. It's now my great pleasure to introduce Provost of the University at Buffalo, my boss, Chip Zukowski.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am very pleased to be here this evening. I've always heard that our law school educates the lawyers, professionals, judges, and politicians in Western New York. And wow, look at you. You know, this is pretty amazing. And as I've learned these things, I've done it over the last 4 years, which is the length of time my wife and I have lived here in Buffalo. And I don't know about you, but I have found that here in Buffalo, we are seeing this sense of Buffalo rising. This is a city that's on the make. This is a university that's on the make. Indeed, it's a law school that is on the make. A lot is happening that is very good for us. Just up Main Street here, you'll come across our medical school that will be finished about this time next year, and we will move 2,000 people into that. And as part of the medical school, Women's and Children's, Buffalo General and Roswell Park, and the companies that are around it, we estimate that there'll be between 15 and 17,000 people that will now be working in the core of Buffalo. This is leading to a fabulous renaissance in Buffalo, as witnessed by all the changes that we're seeing in this part of town. At the same time we're seeing these changes, the law school is also having to think about changes right now. The law profession is undergoing tremendous change. And our law school and our law faculty have accepted the challenge to think deeply about what it is that they want to do as they go forward. You are all professionals and deliver legal services. You worry about justice. You are in the trenches, making our society work, developing the laws, applying the laws, helping customers work through the legal network that we all live in. As I've worked with the law school as they've been faced with challenging these issues, Jim has been kind enough to set me up to visit law classes. And I can tell you it is fabulous to see these faculty in full stride. That I went to small classes, I went to large classes, and I saw the faculty work with the students to dissect fascinating bits of legal history and the law as it is now practiced. So we're very impressed, let's put it that way, with the law faculty and the way they educate. At the same time, I've interacted with a lot of the law students, and you need have no fear that your brilliance remains reflected in the law students who are now at the law school. But these are students who are committed to a career in the law. They are committed to justice, and they work very hard towards that. It's been a pleasure to get to know the law students in our law school. The law school runs a series of law clinics, practica, and pro bono services that are part of the experiential learning that we offer our students, but they also play a very important role in providing services to the community. And I am very proud of the services that they provide, and I believe they provide both service to the community and educate our students in new ways, and that are very good for our students. Now, as the law school imagines new opportunities for how they can educate students for tomorrow, to think about globalization of the legal profession, to think about the new business models that law firms are having to face, to think about new ways of delivering social justice, or just plain justice, the entire university is undergoing transformation. The transformation that we're undergoing is to think about being comprehensive and to choose problems that we can work on that require our comprehensiveness. And to do that, we've chosen communities of excellence, we call them, and Renew, which is our big research center in the area of energy, water, and the environment. And these big multidisciplinary efforts that include education, they include scholarship, they include engagement with the community, involve many disciplines. No individual, no department, no school can solve these big problems on their own. They require all of the talent that we have at UB. The law school remains deeply embedded in each of the areas that we have chosen. It's very important that we as a society understand what justice is, how to apply justice, how policies have to change, and how laws have to change. And the law school is working very hard in order to advance this understanding and directions that we're going. I just want to end by congratulating all of the awardees up on the dais tonight. Congratulate you as our alumni. We are very proud of you and all the contributions that you make to the community, and I hope that you remain very proud of your law school. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim, and thank you, Provost Sikowski. At this time, I would like to gratefully acknowledge the folks who have underwritten this evening's dinner and helped to make it possible. You'll see the names up on the PowerPoint. You'll also see some photos from various chapter activities during the course of the year. I think it's very impressive in terms of the reach of our alumni network. The sponsors here for the dinner tonight, the proceeds from this dinner, including the sponsorships as well as the table sponsors and the folks who are here this evening, are used to support the activities of our Law Alumni Association. I touched on some of those earlier. Without the generosity of our sponsors, we would not be able to provide our members with the many social, educational, and networking programs that are organized throughout the year. And that occurs both here and in Western New York and in our various chapter locations. So enjoy the PowerPoint presentation, and you'll see that there are also some suggestions as to how you might be able to volunteer, help to give back to the law school, give back to the Law Alumni Association. I encourage you to give consideration to those as well. I have a few more thank yous to get through. I want to thank one of our dinner co-chairs who is here tonight, Ann Joint, as well as Patty Lettieri, class of 2001, who could not be here. Our dinner committee includes Scott Becker, Chris Grant, class of 05, Seth Pullen, class of 09, and Stephanie Saunders, class of 2000. I want to thank Executive Director Eileen Fleischman and her wonderful staff out at the Alumni Office. Here tonight we have Assistant Director Lisa Mueller, class of 93, Assistant Gold Group Director Pat Warrington, Administrative Assistant Amy Hitnerowski, Alumni Database Manager Cynthia Rogers. I also want to thank Christina Lively, the school's webmaster, Amy Atkinson, the law school's Director of Special Events, and Sarah Hicks, class of 2017, a law student, all who helped out here this evening and with registration and getting people where they needed to be. I want to ask the officers and current directors of the Law Alumni Association and the Gold Group to stand just to be recognized. We have some officers and directors. I can see. There we go. On behalf of the Law Alumni Association, I want to thank all of the folks who you just saw stand who have helped to make our Law Alumni Association special and great. And I want to personally thank all of you for your help this year and the wonderful things that you've done while I've served in this role and sort of rode your coattails for all the good work you did. Our new Alumni Association directors for 2016 and 17, Thomas Burnham, class of 03, Megan Gomez, class of 05, Thomas Gordon, class of 05, Rachel M. Hiesel, class of 2007, Erica Marabella, class of 2004, Melissa Hancock Nixon, class of 1997. Her name is not in the program, but she has accepted and she will be a new director. Dennis K. Schaefer, class of 1999. I also want to welcome our new Gold Group incoming directors for 2016-2017. Heather Deschert, class of 2010. Andrea DeLuglio, class of 2015. Sarah Draper, class of 2016. Patrick D. Levy, class of 2016. Vincent Miranda, class of 2010. And Henry A. Zummerfeld, class of 2014. They'll all be joining either our Law Alumni Board or our Gold Group Board as new directors this upcoming year. Anniversaries. The Law Alumni Association congratulates the members of the class of 1956 who are celebrating their 60-year anniversary, and the class of 1966 who are celebrating their 50th anniversary. We have a full list of the names of the folks from those classes in the program, and they will all be sent certificates of appreciation for their long service to the profession. At this time, we're going to break for dinner, and I'm done for the evening. So thank you all for coming tonight. Enjoy your dinner. Enjoy the company. Brian will take over after we eat.
Okay, we are going to get started with the business portion of the program and give out some awards. Real quick and somewhat off script, I do want to thank Bob Heery for serving as our president for the last year. And Bob was just terrific. But one of the things we talk about at this dinner every year is membership, of course, and we always want everyone to be a member. A lot of you people are wearing your glowing stars, and I don't want this to sound like a Dr. Seuss book where the star-belly Sneetches are jealous of the plain-belly Sneetches. With that said, having a star shows that you support the Alumni Association and that you are up to date on your dues. So certainly consider doing that. We have a lifetime membership that remains available. It's $1,000. Your dues are going to our wonderful things like our CLE programs, scholarships, online databases, and all the things your Law Alumni Association does. The other plus about the lifetime membership, of course, is you won't get any more invoices and you'll be done. For the awards program. So this is our 54th awards dinner, established by the Law Alumni Association's Board of Directors in 1963. The Distinguished Alumni Awards recognize the valuable contributions that the law school alumni have made to their profession and their community. The acceptance remarks are in your program. So it used to be that people would give speeches. We don't do that anymore. The remarks are in the program, so feel free to look at them. The presenters, by the way, are going to be the lovely Ann Joint and Scott Becker, who's sitting in for Penny Lettieri. Part of what the Law Alumni Association does is an oral history gathering. There are stories from our law school's history that have become part of a treasure trove of information that has been compiled into an extensive oral history project that we started in the year 2000. The project, which is funded by Lauren Racklin, who recently passed away, has recorded alumni, faculty members, and others with close ties to the law school, preserving their voices for posterity and digitally indexing their words to provide easy access for historians, researchers, and others. All 7 of our honorees tonight have been interviewed as part of that project, and tonight we'll feature a clip from each of their interviews as part of the awards presentation. And without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Ann and to Scott.
Thanks, Brian. I don't have my flashy star yet, but I do support the Law Alumni Association. I'll get one before I leave. It's my honor this evening to present the award for the judiciary to the Honorable Ralph A. Bonello, New York State Supreme Court Justice sitting in Niagara Falls. When interviewed for his contribution to the Oral History Project, Judge Bonello spoke about his original career intentions.
Would I choose to become a lawyer? If I had to do it all over again, well, law was not my first choice. My first choice was to be a pilot in the Air Force or the Navy. And when I was in college, I became a registered pilot. And I took courses to get me to where I could take the exam to get admitted into either flight school for the Navy or flight school for the Air Force. I took the exam, passed the exam, and I went for my physical. And I found out for the first time that I didn't have 20/20 vision. And in those days, they would only accept pilots if you had 20/20 vision. But they did accept me as a navigator. And I said, no, I don't want to be a navigator. I want to be a pilot. So I backed off and decided to go to law school.
There are moments sometimes when life hangs in the balance. For Judge Ralph Bonello, one of those moments came not long after he was elected in 2001. If you remember, 3 new state Supreme Court judges were elected that year: Ralph, Fred Marshall, and Donna Siwak. They all went down to Tarrytown for training at the Judicial Institute, and one night they went out to unwind at a jazz club. They were walking back to their hotel in the pitch dark, and out of nowhere, a car comes careening around the corner and goes straight at them. We all ran for it, Judge Siwak remembers, and Ralph was the first one, heading for the trees. Luckily, the driver hit a curb and missed them. But that formed a fast bond between us, Judge Siwak said. We dodged a bullet. We hadn't even started our turns, and we got to laughing, imagining the phone calls to the party chairman. Oh, sorry to hear about Justice Bonello and Justice Siwak and Justice Marshall. So I hear there's an opening on the bench now. They still tell this story when they get together. And for Ralph, who came late to his judgeship after a long career as a practicing lawyer, it was the beginning of a distinguished time on the bench that has been marked by professionalism, warmth, and a deep commitment to fairness. There's no one who has ever been before him who feels like they didn't have his full attention and didn't get a fair shake, says his colleague, Tracy Bannister. People complain about judges all the time, but no one ever complains about Ralph Bonello. Okay, except for maybe the one time about the hiking, but we'll get to that in a second. Ralph is a big hiker, especially in the Adirondacks. There's a challenge among hikers to climb all 46 high peaks in the Adirondack Mountains, including New York's highest point, Mount Marcy. Ralph is working his way through that list, usually in the company of his Labrador retriever, Lily. But there was one time when hiking did not earn him any friends. It was at a state judges conference in Lake Placid, and Ralph had organized a couple of hikes for anyone who wanted to get out and enjoy nature's beauty. 2 hikes, an easy one and a strenuous one. Now, judges as a rule are known more for their intellect than physical stamina. I mean, they do a lot of sitting. As Judge Siwak told it, a little group of them set out on the so-called easy hike, and it just about killed them all. They came back sweaty, exhausted, and everyone was grousing about it. Someone even broke an ankle. This was the easy one? They scheduled the next conference in Manhattan. Part of being an effective judge is being part of the community, and Ralph comes from a family with deep roots in Niagara County. He practiced as a partner with his father for over 30 years, and those roots just keep getting deeper. When he and Kathy go out to dinner in Niagara Falls, especially at any Italian place, it's like Mick Jagger walked in. He's a rock star. Everyone knows him, and he knows everybody else. And in court, the warmth translates into what his colleague, Judge Frank Caruso, calls comfortable authority. I have never been more comfortable working with someone as I am with Ralph, Judge Caruso says. His words are always respectful, professional, and dignified. He's never going to make anyone look bad in his courtroom. And in the administration of justice, there can be no higher praise. And so it is with deep appreciation and respect that we present the Distinguished Alumnus Award for his conscientious and diligent performance in the judiciary to Judge Ralph A. Bonello III. Congratulations, Judge. Can we take a picture? Take a picture right there.
Neil Goldberg and Tom Segala, founding partners of the Buffalo-based law firm Goldberg Segala, are this year's recipients of our award for private practice. This marks the first time the association has presented an award jointly. During their oral history interviews, Neil explained why he has chosen to base his career in Buffalo, while Tom talked about his favorite class in law school.
With regard to what kept me in Buffalo, I personally think that Buffalo has a great deal to offer. So I always think of it when people ask me that question, and I do get asked the question occasionally, I say, why would I leave Buffalo? So Buffalo has, for whatever reason, the best, bar none, plaintiff's attorneys, I think, in the state of New York. It has the best trial bar in the state of New York. So to be able to practice law for and against such excellent adversaries can only serve to make you better.
My favorite class was torts, and I think it had to do with a professor. I had a professor, Ken Davison, and during torts, I remembered 3 words when you analyzed a tort problem: creativity, visibility, and persistence. Those 3 words have pervaded my whole personal and professional career since I had torts in 1969.
When you step off the elevator into the 4th floor offices of Goldberg Segala, the first thing you see are framed covers from Business First. Year after year, again and again, these covers list Goldberg Segala LLP as one of the best places in Buffalo to work. They testify to a corporate culture that values collegiality, high standards, pushing each other to be the best, and having a little fun along the way. Maybe you know the backstory, how a small group of lawyers left Saperston and Day in the spring of 2001 and struck out on their own. Their first office on Delaware Avenue in the shadow of City Hall was a mess. It was in the middle of construction when they moved in, so the office furniture consisted of card tables and folding chairs. There was plaster, there was sawdust, there was hammering all day long. Neil Goldberg's desk was a wooden door thrown across a couple of sawhorses. From those humble beginnings, Neil Goldberg and Tom Segala have built their firm into a powerhouse. The firm now has 19 offices in the United States and the United Kingdom and employs nearly 300 lawyers. Just this year, it has opened 5 new offices. Goldberg Segala is one of the fastest growing law firms in the country. That doesn't happen without vision and persistence. And these 2 named partners bring the best they have to the work at hand. His fellow trial attorney, Terry Connors, calls Neil Goldberg, quote, the consummate advocate, the perfect blend of the art of lawyering and understanding the business aspect of the profession. Every time you come up against Neil or a member of his firm, you know they're going to be incredibly well prepared. You need to make sure your case is buttoned down, end quote. Most recently, Neil had the difficult role of defending Colgan Air against lawsuits from the family of the Flight 3407 victims. A tough, emotional case, but one that Neil was able to resolve with skill and compassion. He knows everything about product liability and personal injury claims, but he also knows a whole lot about antiques, particularly antique furniture. He'd be right at home on Antiques Roadshow, and he's also a great skier. As for Tom Segala, Dan Cohane from Hurwitz and Fine calls him, quote, one of the great legal scholars and one of the top insurance coverage lawyers in the country, end quote. Tom does a lot of expert witness work, testifying in cases where it's alleged that an insurer acted in bad faith. He literally wrote the book on this area of insurance law. Along with Neil, he has been very active in the Defense Research Institute, which consists of nearly 21,000 attorneys who represent defendants who are sued in civil litigation. Their partner, Jack Friedenberg, calls Tom a true, genuine person, someone who pays attention to things like buying the big Christmas tree every year and making a big deal about lighting it up for the first time. He's a country guy at heart. Log cabins, cowboy boots, music with a twang to it. Neil and Tom have built a culture in their firm of celebrating successes and bringing out the best in people. They've brought that commitment to growing talent at the law school as well. We are so appreciative of the support they've given to the Advocacy Institute, which is revving up the training in advocacy skills that our students receive. Neil and the firm's managing partner, Rick Cohen, were the driving force behind the firm's considerable financial support of the Advocacy Institute. And it's an investment that is already paying off in a big way for our students. The practice of law is an art. It's a business, but at its heart, it's about people. That's nowhere more apparent than at Goldberg Segala. And so for their leadership by example as private practitioners, it's my honor to present Distinguished Alumni Awards to both Neil Goldberg and Tom Segala.
The award for community service is presented this evening to Marilyn Tibor Shaw, Associate Judicial Administrator in the Office of the President at Cornell University. I'm a Cornell grad, by the way. Whatever that meant. Anyway, I'm sure you were all dying to know that. In her oral history interview, Marilyn spoke passionately about her volunteer work, providing opportunities for secondary education to students in Kenya.
What it means to provide secondary education to people from Maasai groups in Kenya is that their education can continue past the 8th grade. The girls are not forced into early polygamous marriages and female genital mutilation. The men are allowed to pursue their academics and their careers, and it isn't our choice. These are choices that the families of these kids have made to have them pursue their education. So we aren't changing the culture, but one person with a Western job can support an entire extended family during times of drought, and save their own lives. And they also brought that education home to their villages. Yeah.
Here's something you might not know about Marilyn Tibor Shaw. She has a beautiful singing voice. And here's something else. She uses that beautiful voice to sing African American spirituals. Now that may not seem like a natural fit, but that's the thing about Marilyn. She's about breaking down barriers, whether they're racial, religious, or economic. When you meet her, you want to be friends with her, says Dr. Baruch Whitehead, director of the Dorothy Cotton Jubilee Singers in Ithaca. She's very open, a sensitive soul. This is not just African American music, it's music for humanity. and she just exudes humanity by being empathetic and sensitive to other people. Moving to Ithaca was a homecoming of sorts for Marilyn, who grew up in Rochester and was a history major at Cornell before she came to the law school, and then went on to practice for many years in Washington, D.C. But wherever she has lived, she has brought her training and her talents to bear on real human needs. She has been especially passionate about education, from policymaking to tutoring individual students with special care for those struggling with learning disabilities. Living in Virginia, she got deeply involved with an organization that provides scholarship aid to children of the nomadic peoples of Kenya. This organization, now called the Kenya Education Fund, does terrific work with teenagers, giving them counseling and teaching them study skills and general life skills. Marilyn has served on the board of this organization, but it wasn't just going to board meetings. She traveled to Kenya to meet with the children. She was really, really good with these kids, sitting down with them and telling them how important it is to keep their grades up, her friend and colleague Ricky Cantor says. She would take them under her wing and really explain to them what was what. It was an amazing trip, but a risky one, especially for someone with a bad back. Most of the travel was bouncing around on bumpy backcountry roads, but it didn't stop her. She feels deeply about so many things, Cantor says. That's why she loves the choral group music so much. She feels strongly about being with a broad spectrum of people. She's completely colorblind in every aspect of her life. At the organization Law New York, formerly the Tompkins-Tioga Neighborhood Legal Services, which provides free legal services to low-income people in 14 counties, Marilyn jumped in as a volunteer, preparing wills and powers of attorney for clients who would never be able to afford these basic protections otherwise. Those things are always on the back burner when you're trying to put food on someone's table or connect people with the benefits they need, said Betsy Wall, who worked with Marilyn in this organization's Ithaca office. She hit the ground running, came in every day, and worked a very heavy schedule. They also worked together on a major foreclosure case, a 2-year project. Marilyn's work at Law New York was recognized by the State Bar and the Chief Judge of the Court of Appeals with the Empire Council Award. Ricky Cantor said, Marilyn tries to live a simple life. It's all about her family, especially her 3 grown children, all of whom are taking their mother's lessons to heart and making the world better themselves. There are complex needs all around us. Marilyn has been a model for how to bring passion and brains and energy, all those things that good lawyers have in abundance, and use them to make real change in a world that sorely needs it. For her wide-ranging and effective work and her many contributions to the benefit of our community, we are proud to present the Distinguished Alumna Award for Community Service to Marilyn Tibor Shaw.
Next, we honor Trini Ross, Senior Litigation Counsel for the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Western District of New York, for her extraordinary commitment to public service. In her interview, Trini described what she hopes her legacy will be.
My legacy, what I would want to be remembered for, is a person who gave more than 100% all the time. I want to give more than 100% to the citizens that I serve as a public servant. I want to give more than 100% to the community I live in. I want to give more than 100% to the victims of my cases, to let them know that even though this happened to them, there is truly somebody who cares and who will do everything they can to do something about it. And obviously, sometimes I can't. I mean, you know, my burden is beyond a reasonable doubt, and I need to meet that burden. But what they do know is that I'm working to meet that burden all the time. And if that burden could be met, we're going to do it. I know that the agents laugh at me because they know how late I work and I take work home. But it's important to me, and it's not a burden. It's what I do. It's very important. This society is only as good as the people in it, and I want to be one of those good people in it.
The day-to-day life of a lawyer doesn't always lend itself to introspection. So much to do, so little time. But one of the qualities we admire most about Trini Ross, whom we honor tonight for her public service, is that she's thoughtful about what she does. Listen to her words from a recent interview. Quote, "I often wondered if it was worth it, working in a criminal justice system that does not treat all people equally. I have practiced criminal law for over 20 years, and I have seen actual laws, legislated by Congress, that were unjust towards certain groups of people in our society. And I've seen the application of those laws in an unjust manner. I have asked myself if it was worth being part of a system that did not treat everyone equally. But I realized that if I abandoned the system, then I would not be in a position to help reform it, to help others see why it may need to be reformed, and to be part of its solution," end quote. The legal profession needs that kind of soul searching sometimes. And Trini was a thinker from her earliest days. Even as a young person, she was very determined, very focused, says her sister Paulette Ross, also a UB Law graduate. From grammar school on, she was very good at investigating issues. She would ask questions, then research and investigate them. She always had a sense of history and a sense of current events. Paulette Ross says it was her younger sister Trini who motivated her to go to law school in the first place. Paulette was a psychologist working in New York State, and she was complaining about her job one day to Trini. "I'll make a bet with you," Trini said. "Go take the LSAT. I bet you could get into law school." Trini won the bet, and now there are 2 lawyers in the family. Trini has been incredibly effective as a federal prosecutor. At the U.S. Attorney's Office and in a number of other important roles before that, she has litigated hundreds of cases. Her boss, U.S. Attorney Bill Hochul, had this to say, quote, "It's long been said that public service is a calling and a vocation. The United States Attorney's Office and the entire Western New York community are indeed fortunate that Ms. Ross answered yes to that call. Through her hard work as an assistant United States attorney and her dedication to the rule of law, Trini has made Buffalo safer while at the same time protecting the rights of victims and defendants alike," end quote. Trini also has been hugely important in the training of new attorneys, running a mentoring program, teaching at the law school and elsewhere, providing guidance when lawyers in the office aren't sure how to handle a case. She's on the board of the Park School, where her daughter is a student, and is active in the Women's Bar Association, giving support and encouragement to other women pursuing a legal career. All of it has been accomplished with a diligence and thoughtfulness that have set a standard for what it means to serve in the public interest. We celebrate that and give thanks for her service, as tonight we present the Distinguished Alumna Award for her commitment to public service to Trini Ross.
We are presenting the award for business achievement as a lawyer to Mason Ash, CEO and founder of Ash Sports Entertainment and Consulting. When interviewed, Mason described the current focus of his work on the business affairs of athletes and entertainers.
Now I'm still just doing the business affairs, legal affairs of athletes and entertainers, not being the agent anymore, but I do the marketing deals and I do coordination of all their business management. It's the part that I saw 20 years ago as the part that was not really being coordinated effectively.
Right.
As the agent, my bandwidth was full, scouting, recruiting, signing, and negotiating, and keeping players, out of trouble with their team, and then doing their marketing and making sure they're on time for TV shoots and commercials and product endorsements and philanthropy. But this other stuff, the whole business affairs of everything they do with the money,
Right.
and to do it with a legal support is where I am now. That's the kind of thing that, you know, players need that forever. They don't just need it while they're playing.
So there they were. Mason Ash, up-and-coming sports agent. Michael Grace, a mentor to Mason. 2 13-year-old boys, Grace's son and his friend, and 5 top quarterbacks from the college draft of that year, including a player from Central Florida named Dante Culpepper. There they were in a Disney World parking lot at midnight. The quarterbacks were throwing bombs to these kids, showing off, trying to see who could throw the football the farthest. A surreal scene. And Mason turns to Grace and says, "Are you really sure we want to do this for a living?" You get into strange situations sometimes, dealing in the world of sports. You meet all kinds of people. And for a quarter century now, no one has done it better than Mason Ash. He has been a contract negotiator, legal advisor, and brand strategist for professional athletes, for entertainers, for television talent, celebrity chefs, and journalists and CEOs of all sorts. Now, of course, you have to learn how to do all that, and Mason is known as a quick study. But more than that, you have to have a real empathy for people and an ability to know where they're coming from. That's not something you can learn. That's something that you're born with. Michael Grace tells about the time they visited a hot prospect football player at his home, a tiny little place for a very large family. The young man was being raised by his grandmother, working very hard to try to keep it all together. Mason never missed a beat, he said. He got right in there with his grandmother, found a place where they could talk. He just accepts people where they come from, not where you want them to come from. The only time he's ever looked down on someone is when he's reaching down, trying to help them up. Erie County Family Court Judge Kevin Carter was in a study group with Mason when they were in law school, and they'd been friends ever since. Even when they are 1Ls, he says, Mason drew a crowd. He has charisma. People just gravitated toward him, Judge Carter says. He's a first year, and all the 3Ls are talking to him about their issues and seeking his insight. That's the way he has about him. He always did. And his energy is infectious. Judge Carter tells about a trip that he and a friend took to Washington, D.C. to visit Mason. They were going to a swanky fundraiser for Congressman Harold Ford, a black tie affair. They put on their tuxedos and went to the event, and then they put on some regular clothes and went to even more parties after that. They changed in the car. We were out all night, Judge Carter says. And he sounds a little tired when he tells the story. We didn't get back to our hotel room until 7 in the morning, but that's Mason. He always has that energy. Maybe you've heard of the author Napoleon Hill, whose big book was called Think and Grow Rich. That book is 80 years old now, but Mason has made Hill's ideas a part of how he lives his life. Here's one thing that Napoleon Hill said about envisioning yourself as a success. Hold a picture of yourself long and steadily enough in your mind's eye, and you will be drawn toward it. In Mason's professional success, you can see that principle at work. With focus, drive, and energy, he has built himself into that picture of success that he has held for so long in his mind's eye. And he has done it with integrity and with deep empathy for every client he represents. For his exemplary performance in business, we are proud to present the Distinguished Alumnus Award to Mason P. Ash.
Tonight we present an award to Lieutenant Governor for the State of New York, Kathy Hochul, a non-alumna who has made a significant impact on our legal community. In her oral history interview, she shared with us the reasons she pursued a political career.
I think I was finding my own way to serve. I was brought up in an environment where my parents were always bring people in need to our homes or taking us to the projects in the city to take people comfort and food. And my mother helped start the Neighborhood Information Center on the east side of Buffalo, and we were always volunteering there, working with nuns to help people that were in need. So I didn't know what my path would be, but I knew that you could work to make people's lives better through the vehicle of government, and politics is the avenue to get you into government. If you could just interview for the jobs in government, it'd be a lot easier than running. But this is the price of admission, and so you've got to be willing to put up with the grueling, sometimes experiences, and that are tough campaigns. But at the end of the day, if you're in a position to make decisions to better your community, your neighbors, your state, your country, it's all worthwhile.
It was Tip O'Neill who famously said, "All politics is local." And for Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul, whom we honor tonight as a non-alumna friend of the law school, that's true in a boots-on-the-ground sort of way. It's going on 1.5 years since Kathy became the #2 person in New York State government. And in that time, she's been pretty much everywhere, from downstate to upstate, Western New York to the farthest reaches of the North Country. She's rolling up the odometer, especially in support of Governor Andrew Cuomo's economic development initiatives. And she has been a big part of New York's resurgence. A quick look at her Facebook page shows what the job entails. In Rochester, to announce an expansion of that city's public market, speaking to the Western New York Area Labor Federation, picking up an award in Tarrytown, opening a stretch of the Erie Canalway Trail in Lockport, announcing a plan to invest $150 million in large-scale renewable energy projects, and in Washington to meet with the Secretary of Commerce. Quote, "She's completely in her zone in this job," says Howard Zemsky, CEO of Empire State Development. "She's easily the highest energy, hardest working person I've ever worked with. She doesn't seem to need any downtime. I've never seen anything quite like it," end quote. Zemsky says he and Kathy have offices in the same suite in Albany, and they've seen each other exactly once in 14 months there. You have to be deeply committed to public service to pour yourself into the work of the people. That has been Kathy's motivating spirit all along. In her roles as Erie County Clerk, as our representative in Congress from the 26th Congressional District, and at the start of her political career during the 14 years she spent on the Hamburg Town Board. Joan Kessner, who served alongside her in those days, says that spirit grew from Kathy's upbringing in the Southtowns, in a family with 6 kids, not a lot of money, but what Kessner calls good Irish values. She understands the privilege of serving her community, Kessner says. She likes working to help other people. Kessner says that when they were serving together in Hamburg, they would stop for lunch at a diner somewhere, and Kathy typically would go hungry. Quote, "I knew as soon as we got there that she wouldn't eat, because people would come around with their questions and their problems. Kathy would push her sandwich aside and listen." She says, by her estimate, Kathy has lost 3 or 4 dress sizes since she was elected to Congress. "I tell her staff members to make sure to have granola bars on hand for her," Kessner says. That's true friendship. You probably know that Kathy is married to U.S. Attorney Bill Hochul. They're a power couple if ever there was one, but friends say the emphasis is on the couple and not the power. They ride bikes together at Canalside, share a nice dinner at Daniel's in Hamburg, celebrate the achievements of their 2 grown kids. When they can grab a few days together, they make the most of it. The taxpayers of New York are fortunate to have someone as committed to the future of our state as Kathy Hochul. It's with deep appreciation for her enthusiasm, her integrity, and her commitment to the people of our state that we present this award for outstanding service to the community and the profession by non-alumna to Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul.
if I can, since you're all still here, why don't we give one more round of applause to Ann and Scott for giving out the awards, and to all of our awardees who are truly terrific. That concludes our dinner for the evening. Thanks for supporting the law school. Thanks for supporting our law school. We'll see you all next year.